Coming at you from the frozen tundra that is East Central Alberta, Canada, streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, Odyssey, Telegram, Twitter, Twitch, and the Prepper Broadcast Network. Welcome back to the workshop where we create community, find freedom, promote preparedness, and share success. I am Toolman Tim, and today is December 16th, 2022, and this is episode 221 of the Workshop Podcast. Real quick, guys, this is one of the pre-recorded episodes. I thought this would be a great one to follow up. We had last night an awesome episode on the history and use of mason jars. People loved it. So I thought, hey, why not run my pre-recorded episode on standardized systems, standardizing systems, one of which is mason jars, which we'll talk about tonight. So let's get the announcements out of the way. Number one, the Telegram group is growing. I love the Telegram group. It is where the community, the workshop, hangs out. It's where we had our last week Christmas party, Christmas watch party. We call it a workshop watch party where we watched National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. So if you're listening to this and you want to know how to join, it's pretty simple. Grab the link to the Telegram group below. Hit join. You will get a, basically it will send me a message and I will message you and make sure you're not a crypto selling bot, and I will allow you to know, and you will be able to join the workshop community. And number two, if you want to support what I do, if you want to become part of the Value for Value exchange in the workshop, go to patchofthemonth.co. That is my Patch of the Month club, where every single month, which actually just shipped out today, you get a 2x3 embroidered, Velcro-backed morale patch. Always humorous, usually politically incorrect, something you will enjoy. Anywhere you order them on the internet is $10 a piece. That's what my price is. $10 a month or $100 a year. You get a patch and I get your support for the content that I create. So patchofthemonth.co, run by there, check that out. And finally, today's tool is the Polysteel 100 Coast flashlight. It's 100 lumen. It's about twice as thick around as a Bic pen. It is supposed to survive a 100-foot drop. It has a pocket clip on it, which I've been wearing around my neck with my neck knife, and I love this beast. You would think 100 lumens is not very bright, but guess what? Anytime you want a flashlight that you're everyday carrying, it's always for something up close. It's for seeing into a small area. I'm surprised. I wish I'd have started carrying a flashlight ages ago. So grab that link in the description. Anything you pick up on Amazon with my affiliate link helps support the workshop, and I'm eternally grateful. So thank you guys. So with that, let's pop into today's episode that I recorded on my way back almost 2 weeks ago from an incredible weekend away with my wife, Christmas shopping. So with that, let's jump into today's episode. Hey guys, Toolman Tim here. Still on the road. I'm now on my way back from an incredible weekend away with my beautiful wife and my brother and sister-in-law. We had a great time, ate too much, shopped too much, slept in a bit, just had a really good time. Enjoyed sleeping in a bed without a bunch of chihuahuas trying to, share our space. In other words, take our space from us. No, it was awesome. Becky and I needed it. We needed to get away, and we had a great time. So today, guys, a couple things. I want to share a story with you, a couple stories of some cool people I met this weekend. But the main part of what I want to talk about today is systems and how standardizing on systems around the house or in your business or whatever is, I don't want to say the only way to go, but to me, in my mind, it is the best way to go for efficiency and preparedness. So we're going to talk about that here in a few minutes. But first off, we are going to, I want to share two cool people I met right at the moment. I can't remember either of their names, but it doesn't matter. So the first one, you guys know I've been putting together a history of modern preparedness video series. It's been a lot of fun so far. And as part of it, I'm trying to put together a collection of physical books that kind of, how do you want to put it, recognize or represent some of the thoughts and processes that have gone through over the years, some of the major players in modern prepping. So I picked up I came across the 1960s, a guy named Kirk, K-U-R-T, Saxon, S-A-X-O-N, wrote a newsletter. It's called the Survival Letter, something along those lines. And he put it out every week or every month. It was on a regular basis. And eventually, either toward the late 60s, early 70s, he started compiling all of those newsletters into compendiums. So kind of similar if you guys have ever read the Foxfire series, except this is big. This is like 10 by 14 or maybe 11, but I don't know. No, it's bigger than a sheet of printer paper. So they're pretty big, kind of almost smaller, a little smaller than a newspaper size. So anyway, I'd been looking for them. They were, the next series of books I'd like to have got my hands on for this prepper series. And I found them. I went online. I started digging on Abe Books, abebooks.com. It's a great place for used books. And I found the complete series, all 4 books together. And I clicked on thinking, all right, I'll get them shipped somewhere. And it turned out that they were in Alberta. So yeah, it was incredible. Turned out they were in St. Albert, Alberta, which is just outside of Edmonton. So I figured the first time I came to the city, I would take my time and go find it. So that's what I did this weekend. I came up a few hours before everybody else because the girls had to finish up at the daycare, and I wanted to get to the DYK post place that gets all my American mail brought up for me. And so I said, hey, I'll go find it. So I went, got those books. Turned out he had 2 more kind of theme books. One was survival skills and one was homemade beverages. So I'm really looking forward to going through all of it. It should be pretty interesting. So anyway, while I'm there, I get talking to the owner of the antique bookstore. And, he's telling me he's been doing this for a long time, used to work in television, has a small YouTube channel, all of that. And he said one of his passions in life is restoring antique books. So he showed me a Bible he was working on that was from, 1700, something like that. It was somewhere in there. It was, multiple hundreds of years old. And it had been a family heirloom for literally generations. And he had all this handmade gear, these wood clamps like they would use, just like a standard corkscrew clamp that you would tighten down to hold all the pages into place. And he showed me how he made wheat glue. And he said, here, smell that. And it smelled like cloves. And I said, wow, that's incredible. He said, yeah, if you, the old timers way back when, if they didn't add cloves to the glue, the stuff would literally smell like dog shit, is what he said. So it was really neat. And this guy showed me one of his custom books he had done. He does all the leather binding, all the leather engraving, all the custom lettering and gold leafing and all of that. Just incredible work. And it just made me think, him and I had probably an hour and a half conversation about, lost skills and lost arts and things like that. And, it's something as simple as, say, somebody who used to be able to repair typewriters. First, typewriters go out of fashion. Then people stop using them because you can't buy them. And then gradually, one by one, a typewriter repair store goes out of business. So then the only people that know how to do it are the people who used to run the business. And then eventually, those people pass away. And then all of a sudden, you've lost that skill. The concept I've shared before, Marshall McLuhan says when humanity learned to fire a gun, they lost the skill of firing a bow and arrow. In other words, as technology goes on, old skills get lost. And to me, that's important and sad. So this what he is doing is just incredible. He took it upon himself to go down to Colorado, and learn all these skills over many years. And he's absolutely passionate about keeping a lot of these old texts alive and in readable condition. It's just neat how, the older I get, the more I realize that in order for a person to affect change on the society or to leave behind a legacy, you have to commit yourself to one thing. It's okay to be all over the board with a lot of different interests, but if you want to excel, be great, leave a legacy in something, you've really got to commit to that, because otherwise it's just a passing fancy. And this guy has done that. He's spent, I think, close to 40 years repairing books. In the last 20, he's been basically retired other than his bookstore. And it was incredible to see the skills. So I may end up getting him on the podcast eventually. So he was a real interesting guy. And then the second one was, in the city, I've got these, it's a place called Beck's Gold and Silver Auctions. And they have antiques, and then they have, gold. They buy and sell gold and silver bullion at the best price in Canada, from what I can find, by a long shot. But because they buy and sell at the lowest prices at the best buy price and the lowest sell price, they don't have much stock because people, clean them out very quickly. So you get on an email list and you go pick it up. Anyway, I've been looking for a little bit of gold, and one of the stores had a 10th ounce they picked up. I thought, well, that's in my budget. So I called the store. It was out in Leduc, which is close to the airport in Edmonton. And I went out to this one. I'd never been to this store before. Turns out she's the first franchisee of this company. Really interesting lady, really interesting. We get talking for a bit. She's got a couple of little, kind of, not dash hounds, but something similar to a dash hound, really small, like a Chihuahua anyway. And she was saying how her and her husband had been into silver and gold for a long time and decided to open a store, and they ended up franchising with this Mr. Beck, who owns all the other stores. And we get talking for a little while. I didn't have very long, maybe 15 minutes. And I asked her, I said, hey, have you ever taken any or seen any fake precious metals? She said, not gold, but recently, in the last year or two, I've come across 2 1-ounce denominations of fake silver. And I said, really? Yeah. And she hadn't in a lot of years. So she showed me how her gear worked. I took some pictures. I'll post them on social. She has this electronic tester that you put the silver down on. And on the screen, there's kind of a bracket with about 5 squares that can fill in. And if it goes in anywhere in that square, it's pure silver or pure gold. Anywhere outside those brackets, and it's fake. And this one, she handed it to me. It was, I can't think of the name right now, but it was a very, very well-known, bullion house. I'd recognize the name. It looked legit to me. It was a silver 1-ounce flat bar in a little plastic clamshell. And if, you shook it, you lifted it, it looked right. And she said something in her head just clicked. It didn't feel right. So she threw it down on the tester right quick to test it. And boom, it was fake, completely out of the bars where it should show up. And she knew the guy, and the guy's like, whoa, he said, the guy that was trying to sell it to her did not know it was a fake. He had bought it from somebody, assuming that all the silver he got from the guy was real. And turned out all the other silver he had was, but this one guy had seemingly intentionally deceived him, sold him junk. So anyway, the lady said, I have to take that. You can't, I don't know. I don't know what the rules are, but she kept it anyway. She had a 1-ounce coin somewhere too. She couldn't find it for me, but she showed me how it looked. And basically what they do is they fill in, they put a very thin layer of real silver on the outside. They match the weight the best they can. And then the interior is, what did she say, tungsten or nickel or something like that. But anyway, she just lifted it, and for some reason, something fell off. And I was reminded of the old story of when bankers go to forgery school or counterfeit school. And the old illustration always said they would spend an entire week looking through money, learning how to spot counterfeits. But the entire week they're there, they don't ever touch a counterfeit bill. The whole time they're at counterfeit school, all they do is use and hold real, legitimate, $5, $10, $20 bills. And they said the reason for that is because they want you to become so comfortable with the real thing that the fake thing will stick out like a sore thumb. And to me, that's what happened to her. She was just so comfortable working with real silver and gold that the moment she saw a fake one, she thought, oh, it just felt wrong. She said she couldn't put her hand on it. Said the weight was so close that, that wouldn't have triggered it. But for some reason, something, when she looked and held it, jumped up to her and said, oh, man, this is fake. So we talked for a bit, and, she said her and her husband, they're a little gold heavy. They prefer gold over silver just because of the traditional view of gold being kind of the ultimate, resource or currency, bullion, whatever you want to call it. But they keep a lot of silver too. And she said she's recently had a guy who started buying 10th ounces of silver. And she said he's paying a bit of a premium on it. But his idea was that, he wanted small denominations of pure silver for if or when the currency or the economy collapses, so that he would have something small for trade. And I thought, well, okay, yeah. I mean, 1 ounce silver to me would be sufficient because, it's kind of, 6-8 loaves of bread. So it's not horrible, but I get it. I asked her, I said, well, what about old junk silver? And she said, yeah, he has some of that, but he just wanted to have 10th ounces of silver. So they're just tiny silver rounds that are 1/10 ounce, and he pays a fairly steep premium. So not necessarily my cup of tea, but it was something that he felt obligated to do. So anyway, those were a couple of, excuse me guys, sorry about that, a couple of interesting interactions I had in the city. I always love getting stories from people, learning from people, and just, like I said, it takes being an expert on a certain topic to make a difference in the world, and there's experts out there for everything, and they all have a pretty cool story. So yeah, I enjoyed their stories. I had to share them with you guys. So let's get on to the fundamental topic of the day, and that is standardized systems. And when I was putting the notes together for this, and when I was thinking about it a little while back, I remember many moons ago when I first started working at Home Hardware. And I used to get really frustrated because, they'd always had a very specific way to file up your paperwork at the end of the day. They had a very specific way to fill out a purchase order and a very specific way to do all of this. And it used to frustrate me because it seemed so pointless. Like, why do I need an 8-digit number for a PO? Why do I need to file why do the invoices all need to be stacked in a certain way? And to me, as a 23, 24-year-old at the time, it seemed absolutely pointless. And then one day I came to the understanding in my own brain, nobody ever told me. I said, you know what? I realize why it's done. Now, it doesn't mean we can't change things, but in an organization or in a household, people need to adhere to systems so that efficiencies and shit can get done. Here's the thing, if everybody filed their invoices, their end of day receipts at the hardware store completely different, well, things would get lost. The ladies that had to do them in the next morning to file the paperwork would take 5 times as long, and things would never get done properly. So you need to have systems so that everybody knows what's going on. It's the same with the military. I mean, there's no bigger, no greater user of systems and standardization than than major militaries. I'll use the U.S. military because that's the one that, I hear about and read about all the time. But, the need for standardization helps for a lot of reasons. One is familiarity, another's for repair, another one's for, saving money, all of those things, right? So let's dive in. Let's talk about it a little bit and the different systems that I have standardized over the years. So the first one for me is jerry cans, or, fuel cans, fuel canisters, whatever you want to call it. I have looked at over the years the metal UN canisters, but I never really wanted to spend all that money. And there's a lot of shitty gas cans out there. But for me, I standardized on the Scepter brand. It's SCEPTRE. And it's very popular in Canada, a little less popular in the U.S., but it still has a very traditional nozzle on it. But quite a few years ago, Safety Canada or whatever decided they were going to take the end vent off of it. So they were going to, the backside vent that allows it to flow better. They took that off, and then they put like the two straw method. They got a small little air funnel underneath the main nozzle. So they did away with that, but they were still the best in Canada. In Canada, we had 2 to choose from, Scepter or Wedgeco, whatever it is. And the Wedgeco ones are awful. I find the collar that you tighten down tends to strip really easy. The nozzle is like an accordion style, so it has a lot of failure points in it. The plastic doesn't hold up nearly as well to UV light. So over the years, I just decided. So basically how it happened was, I gradually would replace my Wedgeco gas cans with Scepter. And so what that allows me to do is stock a few extra nozzles, a few extra rubber seals, a few extra buttons or stoppers, a few extra collars, so that if and when I lose or break one, or one of the rubber things becomes unusable, then I have the stuff on hand. I don't have to guess which one goes where. There's never, what I saw, actually I did it too, but I've seen my son do it before as well. When you have two different types of gas cans side by each, what you end up doing is sometimes you set down both of those little medallions and then you swap them. And you're like, oh, that's fine. And then you go in one day on a hot day when everything's swelled up and you get gas fumes all through the garage because the proper one isn't in there. Or you have the wrong rubber grommet around it. And then when it swells up, it pushes it out. Just 1,000 things can go wrong when you have two different systems. So if you standardize on a single gas canister system, how great is that? To me, that is going to save you headaches, save you potential spillage, save you loss of money. And again, it just allows you. And then what else I do is, say I have a gas can that springs a leak. Well, I will save all the other parts. So I'll save, the back vent, the front collar, all of that. I'll put it in a can or a container, and then I have it. So yeah, to me, standardizing on jerry cans has been great. Now, and one other thing. The cool thing about standardizing, it doesn't mean that you only have to standardize on 5 gallon, because I also have some 2.5 gallon and a couple 1 gallons as well. Because I find when I use mixed gas, I like to have the smaller canisters just because you don't need to mix up as much. In the summertime, in the winter, I'll mix 5 gallons of mixed fuel for my backpack blowers. But in the summer, I don't need a lot, so I just keep a small canister on hand. But all the parts fit all of those. So that, to me, is kind of the best of both worlds when it comes to standardization. So the next is rechargeable batteries. Now, everybody asked, Tim, are Eneloop still the best? And so, quality-wise, testing-wise, they do still seem to be. But in my mind, I think you're better off to just, no matter what you pick, pick a decent quality rechargeable battery, and then pick the sizes that are important to you and stock as many of those as you need. Now, I like to buy all the same because then I know the price and I know the look and I know exactly where they're, how reliable they are and all of that. But, for me, for many years, and here's another thing. I've always talked about the need to absolutely standardize. But in the last couple of years, I've started to soften my stance a bit, and we'll talk about that. But I had standardized on AA and AAA batteries because almost everything in the house required AA or AAA batteries. Now, over the years, I have decided, there were a few things that I would love to have had. So here's the thing. Standardization is great. I tried, if I have a choice, if I have two things that are equal, and I can get one that'll take AA batteries, or I can get one that'll take a 9-volt battery, I'm going to go with AA's every day of the week because I like to standardize. Now, I did discover, though, that a lot of my testing tools, like light meter, sound meter, and I got a few other ones, scales, that kind of thing, there really wasn't a good AA alternative. So I ended up deciding not to buy some shit for a few years simply because I was too stubborn to get 9-volt batteries. So eventually I'm like, you know what? All right, Tim, you just need to buy a few. So I did. I broke down and did it. But here's the other thing. My wife has some Christmas decorations that require C and D batteries. Well, I did not want to get into rechargeable C's and D's, but what I was able to find was a really cool little adapter. These sleeves that are shaped the size of a C or a D battery, and either AA or AAA Eneloops go inside. So I'm able to use those without needing to go and buy a bunch of new rechargeable batteries. So what's great about that is I'm able to tap into an existing power source, an existing standardized power source, without needing to buy a whole shit ton of new batteries that can expire. This way, those little sleeves will last an eternity. Now, another one, and you guys will laugh about this, is power tool batteries. I have, there's so many reasons to standardize on a single power tool system. The least of which is you always know what you're going to have. You always know, which batteries go with which platform. And really any of the main kind of DeWalt, Milwaukee, Makita, Ridgit, all of those are very comparable in quality. And even Ryobi and that kind of thing, they're all there. So really, it's just a matter of picking a brand that you really like and sticking with it. And then finding ways to tap into those stored batteries. And so one way is those little USB adapters that you can slide onto the batteries that will allow you to use them as a power bank for your phone if you're traveling, which is really cool. Or I haven't bought one of these yet, but I probably will eventually. It's the little DeWalt power station. It takes 4 DeWalt batteries, and then you can plug all of those into this kind of, it's like a power station. It's like a battery generator, and it allows you to get 120 volt or 110, 120, whatever you want to call it, AC power out of that. And so you could run a pump for a little while. You could run your, what else? Oh, your furnace, any of that kind of stuff. Things you couldn't run off a single battery for sure. So love it. But here's the thing. Sometimes Milwaukee will come out with a tool that I would have really liked, but I wouldn't buy the tool because, damn it, it's not on the DeWalt platform. Or better yet, there was some DeWalt stuff that I thought, it'd be pretty cool, like a jigsaw or a orbital sander, that I just don't use that often, almost never, to be honest. And so I wanted to get some of the cheaper Bauer stuff from Harbor Freight. So I ended up finding those $20 adapters that allow me to continue to use all DeWalt batteries, but they will clip into Bauer tools simply by using that adapter. So you can totally standardize while still being a tad bit flexible. So that's kind of where I have bent on my own rules over the years, because at one time I was just a hardcore evangelist for being 100% standardized. And then I realized, hey, life gets in the way. Sometimes your wife wants a really pretty fake TV that plays Christmas music, and the stupid thing takes C batteries. So then what are you going to do, right? Tell her no? Yeah, good luck. She'll shoot me. But anyway, yeah, so there. Ammo. For me, I have standardized on 22s, 12 gauge, 308 for big hunting rifle, and 9mm for my carbines and my handguns. Now, you may go a different route with that, whatever. I don't care. I'm not going to fight with people over 45 versus 9mm, or 1911 versus, I don't care. To me, having 2 or 3 guns that are the same, or 2 or 3 guns with interchangeable mags, is worth way more than deciding, I guess I'm going to stick with 1911 today, right? So, and then, it allows me to stock up on just, 4 types of ammo, strictly. So I can stock up on 4 types. It's all very common. If I want to get into reloading, I don't have to buy 12,000 different types of dies. But, you've got across the board kind of variety with 12 gauge, so you can do a lot with 12 gauge, so you're not completely stuck. 22 is great. 22 would make a great currency of the apocalypse, so you could barter with it. But to me, I like that for, say, small game hunting. Worst case, home defense would suck with it. But if you're out of everything else, it is dirt cheap, and you can buy thousands of rounds for way less than any of the other calibers out there. So to me, standardizing, and again, I don't care. You can choose whatever caliber you want. But to me, the importance is standardizing in that. I've got 3 or 4 12 gauge shotguns. I've only got 1 308, but that is my rifle. I've got my dad's old 30-30 that just sits in the corner and collects dust, because I don't buy any 30-30 for it. My choice was, I bought a nice new 308 a few years ago, and that is my deer hunting rifle. And if I get anything else down the road, it will be some other 308 at this point. So there's that. USB-C, guys, that has been, talking to Ryan from the Next Gen podcast at Prepper Camp, and he standardized a few years ago on USB Micro or USB Mini, whatever the more modern one is. And at the time, he was really happy with it. But now more and more items are coming out exclusively on USB-C. And to me, it appears that that, how do you want to put it, that hole or that adapter, so that USB-C, universal flip over design, even if they make it faster and better quality, they're still going to be backwards compatible, which is very important. That's the way DeWalt batteries went as well. So to me, I think if you're getting into some sort of, battery banks and all the different things that require cabling and connections, right now I think you're wrong if you don't go into USB-C. I mean, it's so ubiquitous right now that the European Parliament has forced Apple to adopt USB-C over Lightning. So there's that. But here's the thing. There are some items that just don't have it. I bought that new AA, AAA battery charger that doubles as a battery bank. I really wanted it to have a USB-C output, but it didn't. So I had to live with it. But there are adapters. So you can plug, if you have say a USB-A, which is the old style, rectangle design USB port. If you have that, great. And then you are totally fine, because you can get a little adapter that plugs into those ports. So it's good to have a couple of adapters, to go one way or the other, male and female. Now, they're not going to be as fast, but they're still going to be plug and play. So again, all my chargers, all my battery packs, except for one, are all USB-C now. And going forward, if I have a choice and there's, say USB micro, USB-A or whatever, I'm going to go with USB-C all day long. Faster, more reliable, it's going to be infinitely scalable. They're going to work it faster and faster over the years, but that is what it is. Next is mason jars. Now, this is one where we standardized years ago. Now, this was our choice, and it doesn't mean that other people will, you can easily disagree with me on this, because really there's only two sizes for mason jars: regular size mouth and wide mouth jars. So you can say, Tim, I don't agree. Totally fine. But for us, over the years, and there were years when we canned over 400 jars of material, we 100% used regular mouth mason jars, because I wanted to make sure that every jar I owned, every ring I owned, and every lid I bought were 100% interchangeable. To me, that was super important. So all we did, you got, what would it be? A half pint, a pint, a quart, 2 quart, whatever, everything I bought was standard regular mason jars. If I ever got any wide mouth ones, I would trade them with other people for standard mouth mason jars, simply because the standardization, the simplicity, the stocking of only one material made me more efficient, was better for our preparedness journey. And, some people might say, well, how do I get dill pickles out of a regular mouth jar? I'd rather use a wide mouth. Well, that's fine. Standardize on wide mouth or whatever. You can do both. Even at the time, we never bought any, but we looked long and hard at those Tatler reusable canning lids. And so we really wanted to get some of those. And if we had of, again, we would have went with regular mason jars. So there's just that to think about. But yeah, you can disagree with me on that one if you want, but we were happy with what we used. And then, like I said, we traded away any wide mouth stuff we ever got. So the final one is, and I put this as kind of more looser, a looser kind of system, but I call it small engine gear. Now, that doesn't mean, this is not the be all end all, but something I've always tried to do is, if I'm looking at gear and I have the choice, if I can get a lawnmower and a weed whipper that both take the same spark plug, I'm going to do that, because then I can end up just stocking one type of spark plug. To me, that's a huge benefit. But here's where it gets really good. Now, this is not going to pertain to everyone, but it's something to think about. When we used to run gas-powered push mowers, we always bought the same model. I would buy 2 of the Toro, 22-inch mowers the first year, and then every year after that, I would replace one with one. Now, the benefit of that was that I always had extra parts lying around, and I could stock, I'd stock one mower blade, I I would stock multiples, but only one variety of mower blade, one variety of air filter, one variety of spark plug. And in a pinch, I would always, so basically I would keep two of the two newest ones I would keep running. A third one I would keep in the sea can for parts. If I didn't salvage anything off it for the year, I would then sell that one on Facebook Marketplace and then retire the oldest one and then buy one new one every year. So it gave me some really good interchangeability, and I adopted that model this year with my snowblower as well, because you guys know the old 2 is 1, 1 is none, 3 is a guarantee. Well, I wasn't going to buy 3 snowblowers, but I was certainly going to buy 2. So I bought 2 brand new snowblowers this year, and I 100% made sure they were both the same Briggs & Stratton model from Canadian Tire. Now, I don't love Canadian Tire, but the Briggs & Stratton MTD is a really nice snowblower. So when I got the first one, I said, this is great. So Becky and I put an order in for a second one, had my daughter pick it up. She brought it home. It was the complete wrong one. We ended up putting the wrong SKU in the shopping cart on the website. So we ended up paying for the wrong mower. Same price, but, mower, I said snowblower. Same price, but wrong snowblower. So, we talked, I thought a little bit. I'm like, do I really want to drive 2.5 hours each way to return that and get a new one? I wasn't sure, but I decided on the fact that I really wanted to, because to me, standardization was important. So now, it only cost me an extra $100, but I have the exact same 2 snow blowers. Next year, I'll buy one new one, and the one that's the most worn out will go in the sea can and sit there. But what that allows me to do is stock one size shear pin, one size spark plug, one size air filter, one size drive belt, one size auger belt. All of the wearable parts I'm now able to stock, and they're interchangeable. Those friggin' cables drive me nuts. The auger cable and the drive cable are just miserable, cussed things, and I tend to run them against the end of my trailer quite a bit. They stretch. So that is one of those important things to stock, have on hand. So again, now I don't need to keep multiple lengths. I just keep one. And in a pinch, if I need to rob Peter to pay Paul, I can absolutely do that. So what I'd like to hear from you guys, and this is something I don't know if I've ever asked in a live stream, this is pre-recorded, but I'd love to hear back from you, is what are some areas you have standardized in? I tried really hard to think of all the areas. I've been keeping this list for, I bet you, the better part of a year, just adding to it as I would think of one. And the small engine one was one I just thought of today as I was finalizing the notes to do this recording while I drove. But yeah, so share with me, guys, what some of the standardized areas in your life are, how it's helped your prepping, how it's helped your business, how it's helped your around the home life, whatever it happens to be. Because, I don't know, it's one of those things that, some young fellers might think that it's just the talk of a boring old man, but I don't know. If I'm a boring old man, I guess I enjoy it, because to me, it's something that takes a while to learn, but once you learn the benefit of standardization, you're not going to go back. So that's it for me this week, guys. Appreciate you dropping by and listening. I hope you, wherever you are, you're having a wonderful day. And this should play before Christmas, so I'm going to wish you all a Merry Christmas. And as always, stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great week